এবারে সংগ্রাম আমাদের মুক্তির সংগ্রাম, এবারে সংগ্রাম স্বাধীনতার সংগ্রাম। জয় বাংলা।
Hello to everyone who is listening to me in Bangladesh and abroad. I am Ambassador Harun al-Rashid, starting my today's podcast for the sake of Sheikh Hasina with Ambassador Veena Sikri, a former Secretary to the Government of India, seasoned diplomat, and also a former High Commissioner of Bangladesh, High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh. Ambassador Veena Sikri, Madam, how are you?
Very well. Thank you for inviting me on your show. I'm very well, going well in Delhi.
Thank you, Ambassador. I just give a little bit introduction to my program. We call this talk show for the sake of Sheikh Hasina.
Okay.
It is because we believe that Sheikh Hasina is the only leader who can save Bangladesh from the decline it has experienced since August 2024, when the country was violently taken over by Islamist jihadists in a sweeping attack that ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government. This remains the most successful jihadist attack in the history of jihadism. Yes, I repeat, most successful jihadist attack in the history of jihadism. Yet the world took little notice of it because at its helm was one of the most astute deceivers of the last couple of centuries, a Nobel laureate named Muhammad Yunus. Anyone who considers my words to be political rhetoric is welcome to challenge me publicly or privately. I will present the facts which I am confident will convince you. The facts are simple and visible today. Violence and Islamist jihadists in every corner of Bangladesh amid a nationwide decline in the economy, social fabric, social justice, and the safety of women and minorities. Ambassador Veena Sikri, welcome to my show once again. You have heard Sheikh Hasina's speech today, and I want to know how you have processed it, the Sheikh Hasina's statement to the press.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on your show. And yes, I was there at the press conference which Sheikh Hasina held. And I must say it was an electrifying moment because first Sheikh Hasina made her statement and Sajib Joy also made his statement, and there were some others also. But the moment Sheikh Hasina started answering questions, she took live questions from the audience, and there was a huge audience of all the leading media of India, all the international leading media, a lot of interested people from all walks of life. It was a very big audience inside the hall and outside on the lawns also of the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia. And I think when Sheikh Hasina, first of all, in her own statement, she explained in great detail what had happened and what is now happening in Bangladesh. And she expressed her determination that she wants to go back because she wants to be with her people and she's determined to face any consequences. She's prepared to surrender in the court. I think she would like to have an appeal heard to the death sentence. And when she answered questions, she explained categorically, she said what is happening in Bangladesh today and why she's determined to go back. And she will go back at all odds. And she wants to go back by December, which is, to meet Vijay Divas, which is 16th of December, the Victory Day, when the forces of the Liberation War were successful, fighting shoulder to shoulder with the Indian Army. And it was a grand event of that time in 1971. And I think that it is important to recognize that what happened in 2024, 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago today, I think what happened at that time was not a student uprising. It was a meticulously designed regime change operation. And these words, meticulously designed, were used by the Nobel laureate you just referred to, Mohammad Yunus, who was the interim chief advisor for 18 months, backed fully by the Jamaat-e-Islami. And I think that he explained it in New York in September 2024 at the Clinton Global Foundation meeting. And not only he said it was, don't think it just happened, it was meticulously designed. And he introduced the person who he said was the mastermind. And that was his own private secretary, Mahfouz Alam, who is known well in Bangladesh circles as a member of Hizb ut-Tahrir. So I think that the chaos that ensued for the last 2 years in Bangladesh has been very difficult for the people of Bangladesh, because in the last 2 years, 18 months, the first 18 months before the elections were held, I think, first of all, the decisions that Mohammad Yunus government took, whether to disturb the trading pattern with India, to change the rules of trading pattern, to revise everything, to change everything that had all the curbs that had been put on Pakistan, whether visa curbs or trading curbs or exchange of students, everything. So Pakistan has spent the last 18 months trying to go back to the pre-1971 situation, even in their links to the Bangladesh army, everything. So I think that these decisions of Mohammad Yunus regime meant a complete decline in the economy of Bangladesh. And this is one of the great successes of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, that in the 15 years she was there, the economy was growing at 6.5% to 7% every year. And so much so, the success was so great that the Bangladesh economy stands ready to graduate out of the LDC category. And that is a great achievement, something which any country can be proud of. But as against these very significant economic achievements, from August 2024 onwards, we saw a complete decline, because the trading pattern, the links with India, the mutually beneficial pattern which had built up over decades of cooperation, that was allowed to collapse. And many ready-made garments factories, which, as you know, is Bangladesh's main principal export, many ready-made garments factories had to shut down because they could no longer get the raw materials on time, whether it's cotton yarn, man-made yarn, textile machinery, whatever they needed, they could not fulfill the orders and they had to shut down. Hundreds and thousands of women lost their jobs, and so many other factories shut down because of chaos and high inflation, high unemployment, no private investment, no foreign investment. Even now, the credit rating companies have put Bangladesh on negative, indication of negative credit rating. So I think that this has been a great element of disheartening the people of Bangladesh, causing angst, causing a great deal of distress. Millions have gone back into poverty who had, emerged from poverty. And I think this is causing a lot of unrest. We saw also the extreme degrees of violence that were imposed in the first 18 months. The violence against the minorities, the Buddhists, the Christians, the Hindus, all of them. And so many have died. I mean, the Hindu, Buddhist, Christian Occupy Parishad have documented all of this. And there's been so many deaths and killings and rapes and destruction of property. People lost their jobs. Professors at universities lost their jobs, vice chancellors lost their jobs, school teachers lost their jobs for various reasons, sometimes because they were Awami League, sometimes because they were minorities. It just has affected people across the board. And people were hoping that after the elections in February of this year, that everything would change. And now, certainly we see that the BNP government has received a big majority. And I think that first of all, the Awami League was banned. The executive order was passed banning the political activities of the Awami League. And that created a lot of unhappiness or dissatisfaction among the people of Bangladesh, not because they are all Awami League supporters, but because I think the people of Bangladesh love their democracy. If they don't like a political party, they would not vote for that political party. But they don't want to lose the option of voting. So I think this is something that has been a very negative factor, and not taken well at all by the people of Bangladesh. And, former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was accused of this very thing. She was accused that she did not allow the BNP to participate. Although there was never any ban on BNP, but the BNP themselves chose not to participate in the election. But still, the saying was that the people who wanted to speak against Sheikh Hasina kept saying, but she banned the BNP. And now the interim advisor is doing the same thing. So I think this is what has not gone down well. But nevertheless, the people who voted in the election, I think the women's vote went in large degree to the BNP, because the women of Bangladesh as a group, I think they suffered the most under the 18-month interim regime, because, as I said, the Jamaat-e-Islami was the power behind the throne, and they wanted to put a lot of restrictions on the women, on their right to work, on their right to travel alone, on the right to wear the teep, everything, and on what they should wear. So they were the women's group were very, very unhappy, and they expressed that through the vote. And people were expecting after the elections, everything would change. All the earlier decisions that were taken by the interim chief advisor would be changed. But nothing of this kind has happened. No decision taken by Mohammed Yunus government has been reversed. Even the attacks on minorities have continued. In fact, recently in the month of June, on June or July, the Hindu, Buddhist, Christian Oki Parishad published fresh reports on violence in the last 6 months. And it's very dismal, it's very worrisome to see that the violence against minorities has never really stopped. This has been a matter of great concern. The economy hasn't picked up either, because the government of Tariq Rahman has not gone back on those decisions. He's not reversed those decisions. He had given a lot of assurances to a lot of people that he is, going to lift the executive order banning the political participation of Awami League, but nothing of the kind has been done. So that is all the more reason that there is all this extreme chaos. And I think that it seems that differences are cropping up in Bangladesh between the BNP on one side and the NCP, which is the Students' Party, and the Shibir and Jamaat-e-Islami on the other. In fact, I don't know whether you heard, but today in Bangladesh, the acting president had convened action.
I was watching this.
Yes, to show a documentary on the July uprising. And then there was a slanging match or fisticuffs or something between the NCP and the BNP, and all the diplomats left.
Yeah, I was watching that.
Sorry?
I was watching that, Ambassador.
Oh,
The diplomats were in fear and they were leaving.
Yes, they were worrying that there will be some violence that will break out, and so they left. But I think this is a very, very poor commentary on the situation in Bangladesh. I think that, I think it makes me worry a lot about, is there democracy in Bangladesh, or is there complete anarchy?
Ambassador, let us again return to Sheikh Hasina's statement. It was brief. I was browsing online what kind of impact it has, and I watched lots of people, not only the supporters of Sheikh Hasina, they were talking about the confidence with which Sheikh Hasina talked, and she has described what is happening in Bangladesh, and she also said why she is returning. Because she is returning to Bangladesh, the people are in distress, their economy is in decline, they are getting poorer every day, their peace is they are not peaceful, and they are everything they enjoyed in Sheikh Hasina's time are now in jeopardy. So that's what she said, and I just want to come to one point. I was contending it, but I am not getting much support, neither support nor an evidence against what I said. I have said, as in my introduction, you heard, Ambassador, that the attack took place in 2004 in Bangladesh, the jihadist attack, I'm not explaining how it is a jihadist attack because it will take a long time, but this has been the most successful jihadist attack in the history of jihadism. That is my evaluation without any apology. I can inform you of two other jihadist attacks. One in September 9/11 in 2001 in New York. Another is Mumbai attack. We know of such attacks, jihadist attacks, where there was no change of government. In the United States, they did not change a government. In Mumbai, they did not change a Taj Hotel. You remember, madam? They did not change the government. Only in Bangladesh, a jihadist attack changed the government. That I call the most successful jihadist attack in the history of jihadism. Do you think, madam, am I trying to create a political rhetoric, or someone will come with data and prove me wrong?
I think that what you have said really reinforces what I had earlier said, because yes, you're right that it was a successful jihadi attack because the group conducting this attack was the Jamaat-e-Islami, and we know the Jamaat-e-Islami is one of the most extremist radical groups, and we know they've had differences even with the government of Bangladesh when Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was there, that they don't recognize the constitution of Bangladesh, and that they think that their party constitution must be superior. But the point is that they were the chosen conduit for the attack, but they were backed by Pakistan, because Pakistan has always had the Jamaat-e-Islami as their main conduit in Bangladesh, and behind Pakistan were the other external powers that we have spoken about. Basically, I see that this attack, this plan with the Jamaat-e-Islami at the core was conducted by those groups and forces and countries that lost in 1971. And you are right that the jihadi forces lost in 1971. They wanted to have, the kind of thing, the genocide, the rape of women, the terrible, terrible happenings of the 1971 liberation war, the struggle for the liberation of Bangladesh that took place in 1971, and the humanitarian disaster. The Western journalists wrote about it. We've seen all these terrible write-ups about it, because they wanted to reinforce the jihadi regime in Bangladesh. That time also Jamaat-e-Islami was leading the forces in Bangladesh, the Razakar, the Al-Shams, all the groups, etc. So really speaking, you're right that they got together this grouping and put it up. So that is what makes me quite amazed, that when we know that this was a planned regime change operation conducted by the Jihadi organization, as you said, very successfully, one of the most successful. Why is it still being described as a July uprising? In fact, that's the point that today in the press conference, when Sheikh Hasina and Sajib Joy were asked the question, then Sajib Joy said, my mother is being accused of killing people, and that's why she's been given the death sentence. Whereas in Bangladesh, all those who killed policemen and who killed a lot of people in Bangladesh have not even been recorded. They have been given indemnity. They have been indemnified. So there should be complete balance on this. You check everybody. And certainly if there are any deaths and killings, then of course Sheikh Hasina has already said that, if anything has gone wrong, I'm prepared to apologize. Sajib has said that, and they're prepared to face all the consequences. But the point is, on one hand, you're giving indemnity, but to people who are boasting that, yes, we killed policemen, because if we did not kill policemen, we would not have succeeded. Until today, thousands of policemen who were killed in Bangladesh, and the armory that was looted, all the armories across all the, I think, 460 thanas across Bangladesh, and they were looted. There is no accountability for that. The police force still has not recovered from the kind of, the kind of debilitation, the kind of cruelties conducted against them in 2024. So I think that, even there's so much question mark even on what the UNHCR has reported. there are details, that the names of the people given in the UNHCR report and shown as having died, at that time, these are not correct. And in fact, I myself remember that in early August, I think 1st, 2nd August of 2024, or even 31st July, many papers in Bangladesh, including the Daily Star, if I'm not mistaken, they wrote that, we have counted as for how many people have been injured, and they listed some 375 or something like that. But later on, they said, the regime of Muhammad Yunus said, no, we are cutting it off at 5th of July, and this is the number. So, I think all these things have to be gone into. And I would say, and I would really appeal that now that Sheikh Hasina has decided that she wants to go back, she will go back. She's determined to go back. And as you said correctly, she has explained beautifully the reasons why she wants to go back. Very convincingly. And I think all the people in the audience, they were quite convinced of what she was saying. And now that she wants to go back, I think there should be reconciliation. I think there should be, she should be allowed to go back. She's ready to face the courts. The appeal that she would like to have heard, I think she should be allowed to make that appeal. And in fact, the Awami League must be allowed to return. The executive order must be lifted. Political, the cruelties against Awami League, the victimization of Awami League, all that must stop. Because in a democratic country, that can't happen. Why is the world not asking why the hundreds of media people are still in jail for 2 years? Some charged with murder, no bail, no FIR, nothing. Why is it that Awami League leaders, tens and thousands of them, are still in jail? No accountability, no bail, no FIR, nothing. So these questions have to be answered. And in any other country in the world, these questions would be asked. But they're not being asked. Look at Chinmoy Das. He's in jail for the last, I don't know how many, no bail, no trial. He was given bail on one, but still he's not out. Still some other thing has been put on him. So all these are really aspects that I don't see how the people in Bangladesh today, the BNP or any other government, can proceed without answering these questions. And instead, a museum is open today in Bangladesh called the Museum of the July Uprising. We know that it was not a students' uprising. All the students who were there, even because they'd been told, on the quota system, but that quota had been lifted in 2018. And when the court said the quota should be reinstated, the appeal to Supreme Court had been made. So the students, even those who came out at that time, they quickly realized, and even some of the leaders of NCP, the women leaders, they left. They've gone away. They've gone back to their to being students, and they're not a part of the political structure at all. In fact, the NCP does not seem to be representing any students at all. So I think that this reality of what is happening in Bangladesh is very important. And for the future stability and prosperity and democratic development in Bangladesh, it is important that these questions get answered.
Ambassador, I just want to note 2 points. I have been calling upon Tariq Rahman for reconciliation. I am pointing out that you know about 21st August grenade attack. Tariq Rahman's party staged George Mia show there, and which in court was proved that it was Tariq Rahman was one of the proponents of this grenade attack, and he even did not need to go to the court to free himself. So it means he got a life actually. The kind of attack which was conducted to wipe out Awami League and Sheikh Hasina, and now Tariq Rahman is freed. And this kind of revival, political revival, will be in jeopardy again if he does not reconcile with the Awami League. The grenade attack will again return to him. But I don't think he has got that kind of political maturity even after spending 17 years in exile. Another point, Ambassador, you talked about that if you just weigh the human rights violations against the Awami League, just after what happened after 5th of August 2024, more than enough and more than any human rights violations done by the Awami League in their 17 years or 25 years of rule. But Bangladesh Awami League's failure is that they don't have any human rights activists. Jamaat has successfully set up so many human rights groups. They communicate with the West and internationally renowned human rights voices like Amnesty International, and there are so many. Unfortunately, Bangladesh Awami League does not have any kind of window to let the world know what kind of oppressions they are suffering they have been suffering all along, especially after 5th of August in the hand of Yunus, now in the hand of Tariq Rahman. As Shajib Wazed said, they are senior politicians like Amir Hossain Amu, who is a nonagenarian, who is almost 90 years old. And this kind of people who created Bangladesh, they are now in jail, and who were enemies of Bangladesh, as you have mentioned, the Al-Badr, Al-Shams Rajakars, who surrendered in 1971, who put their hand on the hand of General Niazi to surrender, that they submitted, they are defeated. Now they are an opposition party, the main opposition party in Bangladesh. So because of the weakness of the Awami League in creating their own human rights groups, now causing all this misinformation and the lack of information across the globe that how much human rights violation is happening in Bangladesh. This is 2 points I just put.
Yes. No, I agree with you that narrative control is very, very important. And I think we've seen, for example, if you see the way Pakistan has worked the narrative control after 1971 Liberation War, they've even had books published saying that they were not responsible for anything that happened in Bangladesh, and it's only the people of Bangladesh itself who have done it. Whether it's the Biharis or some other group, they have said that we are not responsible. They've actually got people to publish books. So I think that 2 aspects are very important here. One is to have all the facts ready. That is very important. And I think that now Bangladesh, the Awami League people, some of them who are living in Bangladesh or outside, they are trying to put together the facts and figures. How many of their people are actually in jail by name and identity numbers and all that? How many of the journalists are actually in jail? These figures are just not there. So just saying that hundreds of journalists are in jail, and you and I may know names of at least 30, 40, 50 of them, whom we may know, but the other names are just not there. So there is a great deal of work to be done to collect the data. And once the data is there and it can be shown with the name of the person, and just like the names of the policemen who died, they should be given. Their families are there. They're saying that nobody is asking us. We have no recourse. We have no bread earner left in our family. What do we do now? So somebody has to help them. Somebody has to collect the details as to who was the person in the police, his name, his number, how many years he served. All this data is vital because the world community is ready to be convinced. I think the world community. Now this time when Ambassador Sergio Gore, who is Ambassador of America in Delhi and who also has a regional responsibility as Ambassador in South Asia and Central Asia, he was in Dhaka 2 days ago and he met representatives of the Awami League. So it shows that all countries are interested in this aspect, that they realize that the instability that is being caused by this focus on the jihadists. You had the demonstration in Bangladesh where 1.5 million flags were displayed of all the jihadist organizations. The HUIS, the ISIS, the Jamaat-ul-Dawah, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, everybody was there. And this was a kind of attempt at intimidation, And so that is the kind of effort that is being made, but I think the women and many other groups are fighting against it. Now, for example, let's take even when the swearing in of this government was happening on, I think 17th of February something this year. Suddenly there were 2 oaths produced. One was an oath to be taken by those who have been elected members of parliament. And the second was an oath to bring in that, on the July Charter, so-called July Charter. Yes. And actually, at that time, the BNP Prime Minister Tariq Rahman refused to take the second oath. He said it is unconstitutional. But because you can't have one oath which says you will protect the constitution, and the second oath is saying that you will change the constitution, because you want to in accordance with July Charter. But all the opposition leaders, including Jamaat-e-Islami and NCP, they have taken the second oath. So if they have done something that is unconstitutional, I think it's very obvious that how do you still serve as members of parliament? So there are a lot of questions which I think need to be taken up, need to be discussed. Public opinion needs to be created. People need to be made aware of the reality of what has been happening. And I think that even in India, a lot of this is not known. Now, for example, on the policemen, it's not known in India how many policemen died, who were they, where are they now, where are their families, how many of the school teachers, for example, from the minority former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's group, So I think a lot of this information, and maybe I'm sure your podcast is doing a lot, your very detailed series of planned podcasts is doing a lot to correct this information, to bring the correct facts to the awareness of the world community. It's very important because people just don't know. When I can imagine the rest of the world, when even in India sometimes, for example, during the 18 months of the interim chief advisor, there was so much of a outpouring in the Indian media about the minorities, attack on the minorities. But Mohammed Yunus just said, this is fake media. India is the world, the capital of fake media. And that's it. And it was amazing. And sometimes, even the world media, your New York Times and so on, they will believe that. Because here's a Nobel laureate saying this. When you know that the truth is different, because all the reporting from within Bangladesh is different. Even the groups have been following this, human rights groups. There are some, they were there, some of them were there today. But you're right, this information has to be brought out.
Ambassador, the jihadist attack was successful mainly because of Yunus. Yunus was a shield, a protector, a promoter of the jihadists. And another thing you have so pertinently mentioned about even India, when I listen to public speakers' analytics in India, they are not really fully well aware of what is happening in Bangladesh as you are. Because I just share something personal. When you were High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, I started my diplomatic career then in 2002-3.
Yes.
You were there when grenade attack happened. You were there when 10 truck weapon was seized.
Yes.
And I used to receive you at the gate of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I took you to the office of the minister and Morshed Khan, and
Yes.
I listened to you and Morshed Khan talking, and
Oh my God.
you had very difficult time actually as
Very
High
difficult time.
Commissioner. Very difficult time.
Yes.
And
Thank you. I remember that because you were a young officer at that time, and but I was going through very difficult times. And when I would come to Second Beach, I would be so disturbed, in my concern about what is happening. I remember that very clearly. The attack on Sheikh Hasina, the grenade attack on Sheikh Hasina, and it was a Sunday, and oh my gosh, it was absolutely. And then we saw the photographs of those Argis grenades and all that, but everything was wiped clean, by the next day, and it was terrible. And I was there when the 500 attacks, every district, those little explosive devices went off, in every district to show as a great show of strength of the control of the jihadis. But then very soon, all that was exposed because they kept saying this, there is no such thing, and they found that person, the JMB chief, in a safe house in Dhaka itself. So, all that was completely exposed. Yes, but I do hope very much that Sheikh Hasina she is determined to go back. She will go back. I do hope there will be reconciliation. I do hope that the world appreciates that a disturbed Bangladesh Bangladesh full of extremists, full of all the jihadi groups, all not fighting each other, disagreeing with each other. As we saw today, even the political parties, one in the opposition, the NCP and the Jamaat and BNP, they are not agreeing. They're ready in Bonga Bhavan, in the president's residence, official residence, they're prepared to shout at each other or attack each other. I think it reveals the complete instability in the system, and I think that it's time that it got back to genuine democracy, because it is clear that so far the effort is to rule not by democratic means but by diktat. Jamaat Islami feels that their diktat should work wherever. So I think that has to be really looked at very carefully. Yeah.
One thing I want to share once again, and even then, how much a diplomat you were. When I received you, you were so kind to me. Everything was normal, and when you entered the minister's room, and we can hear how angry you were, and even Morshed Khan was also raising his voice. And when you came out, you are again calm, and you are again affectionate to a junior colleague. And then actually, I think it was I was learning then how to be a diplomat, and from your conduct.
Thank you so much. But I always feel that I feel strongly that the essence of the relationship between India and Bangladesh is the people-to-people relationship. So I think that the friendship with you as a young officer who has come to receive me, it's nothing is your fault. You are doing your job, and I think I would like you to know more about India. I would like you to understand India, to appreciate India, and to work for good relations between India and Bangladesh. That is very important. All of us have to do it. But if I am I've come to deliver a message, when I reach the person to whom I want to deliver the message, then I deliver the message unequivocally. Then I deliver it firmly. But otherwise, I am always very, very keen that I had good relations, and there were a lot of very difficult moments. I cannot even begin to describe the difficult moments that were there. But at all times, I would travel outside Dhaka. I would travel within Dhaka. I would go to so many institutions like Dhaka University. I addressed them 2-3 times, in International Relations Department, Peace and Conflict Studies Department, everywhere I would go. If they invite me to give a talk, I will go. I went to the NDC to give a talk, everywhere. And I would go out into the villages. And I remember, for example, it is very, very interesting to show you how important the people-to-people relationship is. When I went to Dhaka as High Commissioner, the people in Delhi, the understanding in Delhi, it was, very difficult time. Begum Khalda Zia had become Prime Minister, difficult moments. And the people in Delhi said, I think the people of Bangladesh have forgotten 1971. They've forgotten the Liberation War. So I said, I don't know how, but anyway, when I go to Dhaka, I will find out about this. But that was a kind of a feeling prevalent that people of Bangladesh forgotten. When I went to Dhaka and I was traveling outside, and I met so many people. I went to schools, I went to small villages, I went to see the projects, and so many of the people I met told me, India has forgotten 1971. So I said, my gosh, this is amazing. Look at that, our neighboring countries. And there is this kind of misunderstanding on both sides. Then I realized that, for example, in Calcutta, in Fort Williams, every year, right, since 1971, there's a great celebration on 16th of December, Vijay Divas. There's a great celebration in Fort Williams. And everybody's invited, and there's a grand solemn observation and also celebration of Victory Day. Then I spoke to people in Fort Williams, in Delhi, in Defense, External Affairs. I said, you have this great celebration, but nobody from Bangladesh is invited. So can I please request that this year, I think it was 2004, this year for the Vijay Divas, can you please invite a group from Bangladesh, and I will select. I said, I will select a group. And then I made a group, all retired people, somebody who had been in the army, somebody who was a doctor, somebody who was a university professor, and somebody who was an academician. And I said, we selected a group of 7-8 people, and they went to Calcutta, participated in Vijay Divas, and then they came back. They were so touched. They were so happy. And they said, now we know that India has not forgotten 1971. So, this interaction, the people-to-people interaction, this is so important to keep it going. And I think that, I hope that, now that the visas have been reopened, and I think this should happen more, that people should understand. We had started a unit in Dhaka University of Indian Studies. They started teaching of Hindi language also. It's so popular. People want to understand each other. People want to know what is going on. They want to be able to see. When I was in Jamia Millia Islamia as professor after I retired from government, then I made a group a contact between Jamia Millia Islamia and the Department of International Relations in Dhaka University. And we invited the Dhaka University MA final year students to come for their field visit to Delhi and to visit, stay in Jamia and so on, just to create that connectivity. And then we made another group we made, again in relations between Dhaka University and Jamia Millia Islamia, invited young people, young professionals, PhD students, first job holders, about 8 from Bangladesh, 8 from India. They meet each other. They have talks by Bangladesh experts, by Indian experts. And then we tell them, okay, now you young people, you decide among yourselves, how should a problem be solved? Whether it is border problem, whether it is water resources, whether it is border management, or any other problem, you decide. And they were so appreciative that they could hear the voice of the people of Bangladesh on the other side, or the voice of the people of India on this side. So I think that, any government which is genuinely interested in good relations between Bangladesh and India will always encourage people-to-people contacts. But I found, for the last 2 years now, first with Mohammed Yunus as interim advisor, and then now with Tariq Rahman, that they're not interested. The government of India has shown a great deal of patience, a great deal of strategic patience and restraint, and telling the government of Bangladesh that, look, we are interested in good relations, good neighborly relations, and we want to continue the dialogue. We want to continue all the projects we started. So please let us get together and talk. But there's no response from the Bangladesh side, either for 18 months or even now. So there's, the dialogue is virtually not there. So I hope that, in the spirit of reconciliation, when Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is now interested in going back, I think she's very determined, she's very courageous. She knows the consequences can be disastrous, but she is prepared to face the consequences. That is her personal bravery and her conviction that the people of Bangladesh, because they're facing all these difficulties, they need her to go back. And I think the enormous amount of political support, public support, popular support, that the Awami League as a grouping, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina herself, for her leadership, and all the people of Bangladesh, they are waiting. They know that. They know the difficulties. They know that what they are going through. They know that why it is being caused. And they are all saying, Age bhalo chilo, that was better before when Sheikh Hasina was there. They're all saying that. And the same people, like you're saying that, they were against her and they opposed so-and-so. But the same people are saying now it was better before. So I think there is no substitute for good governance. There's no substitute for democratic governance. And there's no substitute for good people-to-people contacts between countries like Bangladesh and India, two important neighbors.
Ambassador, despite all the good things you have said, history of 1971 has gone to the hands of the jihadists, at least for a large section of Bangladeshi people. And I have been trying to debunk all these lies, scenarios, and all the propaganda, but only by myself. I want, if you kindly join me in a few more sessions, we just want to discuss all the propaganda that is controlling this common history between Bangladesh and India, especially India's support and logistic help to Bangladeshi liberation war. And as you know it, I mean more than me, in Bangladesh, at least in paper, there is only one democratic political party among four major ones: Awami League, BNP, Jamaat, and Jatiyo Party. The rest of all the three others, either Islamic or semi-Islamic political parties. Only Awami League, though it is not ideal, its paper has at least one word that it is secular and democratic. But the propaganda and the narrative is now controlled by propagandists and the liars and jihadists. We need to debunk all this. And but personally, I need support from you or people like you who understand both sides of the story and both sides of the both people from both sides.
Yeah, thank you. Certainly, of course, I have myself been totally in favor over the last 2 years of bringing out the facts. And I agree that every fact needs to be brought out and placed on the table for anybody who wants to look at it and decide what went right and what went wrong. I mean, for example, I think it's quite correct to say that you can't go on talking about a certain number of people having died when you're ignoring all the policemen who died, you're ignoring all the others who died under cruel circumstances, and you're ignoring all the people in jail today. What is this? Where is this country where you don't have, bail or FIR or hearings for 2 years, 3 years? And imagine people having lost their lives. And, we know that the public is expressing its support. We know that when Awami League leaders like Tufail Ahmad and Engineer Musharraf Hussain, when they died, the kind of outpouring in the hundreds of thousands of people who came to express, as a feeling that they are losing their leaders and they want change. I agree, this effort has to be made. I'm all in favor of it. And I think collecting the information, the correct information that you have, for example, any of the things that have happened at the grassroots level. I know people are very scared to talk because they are being watched, they are being then attacked, and they are scared of losing their lives and their homes and their property. So it is not easy. It is a very, very difficult task. But I think the appeal to the international community has to be that all sides of the picture must be heard. And that's why I'm hoping that, with all the discussions that are taking place and your podcast and so many others and information being brought out, that, we will get to this. We will get there. But we have to be clear in our objectives that the facts must be there and collected consistently by everybody. And it's not difficult to get facts out. I mean, even though it's difficult maybe to get personal, recountances because people are scared to talk. But if you can even collect all the facts and figures and ask, the international community, ask interested groups to look at that. I mean, for example, on the Volcker report, a lot of people, Turk Volcker report, a lot of people have now come out to say that, it's not correct to say that these 1,400 people have died. It's not correct. And once you can establish that even one of those names is incorrect, or 2 or 3 or 10, then you know that the report is inaccurate and the very authenticity of the report is gone. So I know that some information has been collected about those names. Let's put it out in the public space. You should put it out through your podcast that, this is what it is. Here are the names which were wrongly given. This is not correct. And bit by bit, it will happen. And yes, you're right. I'm prepared to help out in any way I can.
Thank you, Ambassador Veena Sikri. Just one last point I want to note. Even Sheikh Hasina herself called for impartial investigation into every death. Why
Yes.
that is not taking place?
No, but that she repeated that call today, and even Sajib said about that. And I think it's important, having come from her, all of you, and you're saying it today on your podcast, which is very important, and they should be repeated again and again. And more media should be encouraged to write about it, So I think that I hope that there will be a transcript or a tape or a transcript would be very good for the print media to carry her words. And once that is there, then it can really be put into good use. I think that's very important, and that effort should be there. The effort, actually, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has given her leadership on this, that let's investigate everything. Let's investigate all that has happened in the last 2 years. And I think that is a very good call, and it will be taken up. She's prepared to have all the other issues investigated, that whether a student died. I mean, don't you remember that one of the former advisors who was removed from his post, Brigadier Sheikh Hussain, who was one of the advisors of Muhammad Yunus, he made a statement saying that, some of the people who are saying students have died, they've been killed not by any weapons that are available in Bangladesh. Where did these snipers come from? He asked that question. He said there should be an investigation, but the next day he was removed from his post. So I think all these facts and figures are very important, and the correct narrative has to come out.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much for your time. I am so much grateful. And as you said, I will request you again to talk on this channel, and we have some important works to do. For now, friends, we are taking your leave, and Ambassador Veena Sikri will show up again in my podcast. Thank you, madam. Thank you for your...
Great pleasure talking to you and to your audience. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
আমার কিছু চাওয়ার নেই। আমি বাংলার মানুষের সেবা করতে এসেছি। মা বাবা ভাই সব হারিয়ে, সব হারাবার বেদনাকে সম্বল করে আমি বাংলার কৃষক শ্রমিক মেহনতি মানুষের মুক্তির জন্য সংগ্রাম করতে এসেছি। আমার সংগ্রাম সেই দিন সফল হবে বাংলার দুঃখী মানুষের মুখে যেদিন হাসি ফুটবে, বাংলার ঘরে ঘরে কোনো হাহাকার থাকবে না, বাংলার আকাশ বাতাস ক্ষুধার্ত নরনারীর হাহাকারে ভারী হবে না, বাংলার মানুষ ক্ষুধার অন্ন পাবে, বস্ত্র পাবে, বাসস্থান পাবে, চিকিৎসা পাবে, শিক্ষা পাবে, উন্নত জীবনের অধিকারী হবে। সেই দিন আমার সংগ্রাম সার্থক হবে, সেই দিন জাতির পিতার আত্মা শান্তি পাবে। এখনো ষড়যন্ত্র আছে, এখনো হুমকি দেওয়া হয় আরেকটি 15ই আগস্ট ঘটানো হবে, এখনো হুমকি দেওয়া হয় যে আমার পিতার লাশ পাওয়া গিয়েছিল, আমার লাশ নাকি খুঁজে পাওয়া যাবে না। যারা আমাকে হুমকি দেয় তাদেরকে আমি একটি কথাই বলবো, 17ই মে বাংলার মাটিতে পা দিয়েছিলাম, জীবনের পরোয়া আমি করি নাই, কোনো কিছু চাওয়া পাওয়ার জন্য আমি আসি নাই, বাংলার মানুষের অধিকার প্রতিষ্ঠার জন্য নিজের জীবনকে বিলিয়ে দিতে আমি বাংলার মাটিতে এসেছি। আজও যদি দুঃখী বাংলার